Hi, hello, how's it going? It's Emily, and we're starting an adventure, y'all. So, we're going to be starting my Sarah J Maas universe adventure. And we're going to be starting with A Court of Thorns and Roses. I have a very specific reading order I would like to do these in. I do have this posted on my Instagram as well. And I'm going to be doing the order recommended by Jamie from That Girl Reads. And we're going to start with A Court of Thorns and Roses, go through the trilogy, through A Court of Wings and Ruin, and then jump ship a little bit, go to Throne of Glass. I'm going to be reading Assassin's Blade Third. I know there are a lot of opinions on that. I don't know. You just got to do your best to figure out what might work for you. But this was her recommendation, so I'm just going to take her at her recommendation. Going to do Throne of Glass, read Assassin's Blade Third, probably do the tandem read, and then come back to this series and go to the novella, Court of Frost and Starlight, and then A Court of Silver Flames, and then do Crescent City. So that's the game plan here. And I will also be listening to the Fantasy Fangirl podcast, going into depth about all of these books. I figured that would be, I think, the coolest way to get a lot out of this. And so I'm going to be following along, kind of going back on their channel from when they were doing these books and listen to that as I'm going along, because I just think that would be fun. And the other thing I'll mention is that these are actually a reread. The trilogy and A Court of Frost and Starlight are actually a reread for me. I have not read A Court of Silver Flames. And so that will be, and I haven't read any other Sarah J Maas books, so that'll be where the rereading ends for me. But for the moment, this is a reread. And so it'll be interesting to see if any of my thoughts change upon reread. I did vlog reading these, and this was in lockdown 5 years ago. So I'll link that vlog below just in case you're curious. And what I did for that one was kind of have a non-spoiler section and then a spoiler section, non-spoiler section, and then a spoiler section. I think for the three main books, I think is what I did, if I recall correctly. Again, it's been 5 years. But I think you kind of needed to bounce around to stay non-spoiler if you wanted to. So what I can do, I don't necessarily have to include spoiler thoughts, but what I can do if you would like them is just include spoiler thoughts. I'm going to divide all of these episodes by 2 books and essentially be reading 2 books a month up until the release of the new books. And so I'm just going to have these be like 2-book episodes or 2-book vlogs on my channel, and then just kind of have this be a continuous series throughout the year. And so, I can give non-spoiler thoughts for, whatever 2 books I'm reading for that vlog. And then at the end, give some spoiler thoughts that include both of those books. And maybe that will be of interest. So let me know the best way to do that, or maybe you don't really care about spoiler thoughts at all. Or maybe you would like to hear them, and that would be the best way, and that way you don't need to skip around, or let me know your thoughts. Happy to adjust. But anyway, we are here with A Court of Thorns and Roses. I am about 125 pages in. I'm on chapter 14. And so in this one, of course, we're following Farah, and we open with her in the human lands, and she is taking care of her family. Her family has kind of lost their fortune some years ago. Her mother died a good handful of years ago as well, when she was 8. And then she's 19 at the start of this story and is basically taking care of her whole family. Her father is injured, and his leg doesn't really work very well, and so but he kind of sells some wood carvings at a market, but hasn't really done much else. She takes care of her sisters who aren't not the best family dynamics here, because her father is just kind of off in his own world and absent, and her sisters kind of take care of each other or care for each other. Nesta is the oldest, Elaine the middle sister, and Nesta will look after Elaine and care about Elaine, but not necessarily Farah. And she kind of resents Farah for Farah kind of asking her sisters to do things to kind of help take care of themselves and help keep moving things forward. She's basically doing everything to take care of this family and, not really getting much help at all. And so she's not really in a great position. Again, not really great family dynamics there. And then she is hunting, again, out of necessity to feed the family, and comes across a deer at one point and is trying to catch this deer. And then she also sees a wolf who is eyeing this deer. And she wants to make sure that she can bring that deer home for her family. So she ends up killing both the wolf and the deer. Ends up selling their skins at a market, getting the meat for the family, having some that they can eat, coming up, and then drying some so that they can eat it later on as well. And, kind of doing all this work to make sure that her family can eat the deer and get some of the money from the skins. So she sells that at a market. And, we meet some interesting folks as she's going through this market. The person who ends up buying the skins is this kind of mysterious person. And anyway, so she gets money from selling that. And then, later that night gets, this creature barges in and basically says, hey, you have killed a fae. And according to the treaty between humans and fae, and some of the backstory here is that fae used to have humans as slaves. There was a war about this some time ago. And so this treaty was drawn up at the conclusion of this war, giving various terms for the interactions between humans and fae. And so he's like, according to the treaty, it's a life for a life. I can either kill you here or you can come back to Prithian with me. And so she ends up deciding to do that. And enter Tamlin, who is the person who is taking her back to the Feylands. She goes to what she finds out is the Spring Court and is meeting some interesting creatures. So the magic is starting to weaken, and various creatures are getting through the border from other parts of the Feylands and kind of causing problems. There's also this, the magic has also, I maybe not weakened, but like been affected also in a sense that, everyone in the Spring Court put masks on for this party, but now cannot take them off. So everyone here is masked. And so anyway, magic is kind of going haywire or weakening. And so he's trying to figure this out. And some of his second in command is like some of the people around him are trying to help keep the Spring Court lands safe from all these creatures that are starting to kind of be able to get in when they otherwise shouldn't be able to or normally wouldn't. And so she's just trying to figure out what to do with her time. She no longer, her family, according to Tamlin, her family is being taken care of. And so she's no longer primarily responsible for making sure that her family is alive and doesn't really know what to do with her time. She is a painter. And so, she's going to start exploring that. She's trying to get information about this magic and the Feylands, and if there's any way for her to get back home to check on her family. And, so she's trying to get as much information as she can. Information is not very forthcoming. And so she's trying to do what she can to get information. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. But she's trying to learn things and trying to figure out what to do with her time now that she isn't just, hunting out of necessity. And anyway, so that's where we're at the moment, and kind of the introduction and plan for what I hope to do with this series for, a good chunk of the year on my channel. So that's the plan, is 2 books a vlog, 1 vlog a month. And hopefully I can sustain that, and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Anyway, so I'm going to keep reading this one. I'm very excited to continue. I really enjoyed the trilogy when I first read it. So very much looking forward to going back in and refreshing myself as far as what happened and character relationships and all that. So very much looking forward to continuing and to getting to ACOMAF, because that was for sure my favorite when I originally read it. So very excited. But yeah, I'll check in once I have more thoughts on ACOTAR. Good morning, and I am now halfway through ACOTAR, so let's chat a little bit. So Sarah has been taken to the spring court, and for a solid chunk, and I know things are going to pick up because I've read this before, but there is kind of a slow chunk after she gets there where she's really just figuring out how to just exist, right? She's been under so much stress for such a long time just to survive, that just having the food that she needs and being able to keep herself, rested and clean and fed and taken care of is not something that she's used to. So she's literally spending time just getting used to those things, finding time to do things that she enjoys, like paint. Various fae festivities are involved. So there is a bit of a slower pace in this part, and Tamlin and Lucien and some others are, again, still trying to figure out what's going on with the magic in this world, what they can do about it, and not really telling her a lot. They're giving her some information, but they're not really telling her a ton because they're not really sure what she could do about it. And so basically at this point, he just kind of wants to keep her safe from everything that's going on and just let her exist for a little while. So yeah, a bit of a slower section, but still very much having fun with their interactions, with the changing dynamic between Feyre and Tamlin. And I don't know, like it's still just fun. And again, I know things are going to pick up once some things happen a bit later. And again, we'll see how much detail I want to go into. But having a grand time, to be honest. And today's going to be busy. I just got my video up, the second episode in Unwrap My TBR. So I just got that up. If you haven't watched that, it should be the last vlog on my channel. My TBR video might go up in between that vlog getting posted and this vlog getting posted, but it should be the last vlog that I posted, where I just pick a number out of a jar, and the wrapped book that corresponds to that number, has that number on it, is the next book I read. It's super fun, so be sure to go check that out. So I've been spending the morning getting that ready to go, doing the captions, doing other content stuff. And then in just a little bit, I'm taking a course this week on bookkeeping, and trying to see if maybe doing that could be a good option. Just having something that I can do here flexibly, but still make decent money doing that could be a really good option, and just kind of take my employment into my own hands. So I'm learning more about that to see if that's an option. So I've got another class on that, and then I'll be applying for some jobs, and then going to a bar class as well. Also, it's my dad's birthday, so happy birthday, Dad. So I'll be calling him later today as well. So yeah, gonna be a busy day, but throughout at least some of that, on the way to and from bar, while folding some laundry and unloading the dishwasher and stuff, I can continue reading. I am also, however, reading at the same time The Silent Earth Is that what it is? The Silent Earth, I think, which is about insects and why they're dwindling, why they're critical to ecosystems, and what we can do about that. Because that is the next book for my environmental book club. So I'm also kind of reading that amongst everything else. So it's going to be a busy day. I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it today, but I'm hoping I can at least finish it early on in the day tomorrow and then continue on to ACOTAR, which I know I'm very excited about. All right, so let's go. So here to check in, I have finished A Court of Thorns and Roses. And what I haven't talked about is this as a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So this is a Beauty and the Beast retelling if you haven't heard that. And, you know, favorite is our Belle character, Tamlin, our Beast character. She is taken from her home, brought to somewhere else, kind of, you know, forced to stay there for reasons. She can kind of roam about, but is kind of confined to this castle. There's even the, you know, show her the library kind of moment when Tamlin shows Farah this huge place that she can paint in, so that kind of gave that vibe. So there's definitely a moment of, if you love her, you need to let her go, and the implications of that. Some politics kind of catching up with them, and kind of forcing our Belle character to make some decisions. And anyway, so it definitely follows some of the key beats from Beauty and the Beast, and I love a good Beauty and the Beast retelling. Belle is my girl. I love Belle. She's my favorite Disney princess, especially like the older Disney movies. And so I love a good Beauty and the Beast retelling. Beauty and the Beast retelling. Can I say that? I love these. And I actually am starting to kind of get a little bit of a collection of Beauty and the Beast retellings. And that's always something that draws me to a book or a synopsis when it mentions that it's a Beauty and the Beast retelling. So I wanted to just kind of mention some of the beats that we're going through here. I mentioned that it was getting a bit slower, like once she's in her new place and kind of getting her bearings a little bit. We kind of have that slow down moment a little bit. I knew it would pick back up just based on reading it before. And I think we need that moment though, because the things that she's learning in those moments, there's a contrast, like a stark contrast between who she is in those moments and why she decides to do some things later after some of the key events in the second half of the book happen. So we kind of need those moments to kind of show that character growth and show why she's kind of changing her mind about some things or has a different perspective on some different things and on some different characters and people once she kind of goes through some of these traumatic experiences. So I understand and appreciate why we need this slower moment. But as I said, things do pick up in the latter, you know, third half of this book. She is trying to, you know, just talk a little bit about it. Certainly not going to spoil anything. Don't want to talk too much about it. But, you know, she's trying to rescue Tamlin from a situation and putting herself in danger doing so. And so she needs to go through, again, I'll talk about this kind of very high level. She needs to go through a set of trials, a series of tests to, you know, in this place in order to accomplish that. And so we see her in this new location, not doing too well in this location, trying to fight the big bad, going through these different trials. And it changes her. It changes her. And so, as I said, we kind of need those moments before and kind of that slowdown to show the contrast in her character before and after those moments. And so that's really all I want to say about this one. But it was so much fun to be back in this world. Honestly, I think I enjoyed this even more on a reread. I was just having a grand time with this one. I know that I enjoyed ACOTAR even more last time, and I am still enjoying it even more this time. ACOTAR was definitely my favorite one when I first read it. And so we'll see if that's the case this time. We'll see if I'm definitely appreciating A Court of Thorns and Roses more on a reread. So we'll see, if this one still holds up as my favorite, or, if I have some different thoughts, or if A Court of Wings and Ruins, if I appreciate that even more on a reread. We'll see how this continues. But for now, we are a solid chunk into A Court of Mist and Fury. And, I kind of gave some brief mentions of traumatic things that happen, towards the end of the book. And again, I don't want to go into detail, but she, as I said, changes, and her dynamic with different characters change. And as a result of an agreement, a bargain that she made with someone recent, as a result of some things that happened, she's going back and forth between a couple of different locations, and she is starting to realize how much she's changed, what she needs, coming to understand more about the politics of this world and how she can play a role, and wanting to help. She's wanting to be able to make a positive difference and continue fighting this big bad. And, of course, there's always more big bad to fight. And so there, several things that are tied together about these big bad situations. And so, they're continuing to learn more about the politics of what's going on, and she's wanting to help. And so she's going back and forth between a couple of different locations and ultimately trying to figure out where she belongs in this world. And she's changed in a lot of ways, not just, anyway, so with all of this going on, she's really trying to figure out who she, as this new person, belongs and with whom she belongs. And I definitely appreciate the found family elements of ACOMAF as she's going to this new location and meeting new people and, getting into the politics, starting to learn new skills, learn new things about the magic in this world and how that relates to the political situation and, where she'll be able to fit in to help. And so she's trying to, again, meeting these new characters, kind of seeing their dynamic, going to these new places, and has gone on a couple of different tasks in order to kind of help accomplish those goals of finding more information and, figuring out some things about magic and yada, yada, yada. So, but yeah, I love this one so much. I don't know. It's just so much fun, again, to be back here. And, the found family is great in here. Getting to see the larger picture of this world and where things are headed, I think, is masterfully done here. Like, it's just so much fun. And I'm continuing to have a grand time with ACOMAF, and I still could foresee this being my favorite in the series. Again, keep watching future episodes to see if that ends up being the case, or how this series for me stacks up with her other series. But I'm loving this reread. So I'm going to keep reading. I'm going to try to check in tomorrow once I've made it another solid chunk through, or maybe the next day once I've made it a solid chunk through, because I do want to get this done hopefully in the next, couple of days, and then fit in one more short book before the end of the month and before starting on my April reads. By the way, if you missed my April TBR, it is now up on my channel. So if you haven't seen it and you're curious about what's coming in April, be sure to check that out. But yeah, so gonna read some more of this, and I'm sure I'm gonna continue to have just a wonderful time doing so. So I am another solid chunk through ACOMAF and still absolutely loving this. There's not a ton more I want to say, but I will comment on just the slow burn in here. And I appreciate how much time Sarah J Maas takes to kind of build that relationship whether it's friendships or, in this case, also romantic relationships. She takes her time. She takes her time with them, and it just makes the payoff so good. And, you know, there is spice in here, and there is spice in the first one. So, like, there is explicit content, but, like, I feel like it's earned. It is earned. We take our time getting there. We can feel the relationship between the characters changing and growing, and why they're feeling the way they're feeling, why maybe they're wanting to take their time, you know, especially given everything that they've been through. And so we're feeling every single one of those moments with our characters, and she will just take the time to have those character moments, whether it's, again, with a found family, of friends, or in a romantic sense. Chapter 42, y'all. Chapter 42, if you know, you know. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so they're just continuing to go around, go to specific places for specific reasons, to either talk to people to get information they need, get physical things that they need, start to learn more information, figure out where things are headed. So the political situation is also just kind of slowly but surely developing. And I appreciate the time taken there too, because I feel like we really get to understand it and kind of the pieces that are moving and why they're going to these different places. So I don't know. I'm still just having a grand time, and getting to see more of this world is great. So yeah, I'm just still really appreciating this book and the setup that it kind of has for everything that happens in the third one. The little nuggets we're planting and have been planting since the first book, and upon a reread you can kind of tell where some of those things are. And I'm sure I'm missing a ton that I'm going to be going back over in the podcast at some point. I will also, I don't know if I already mentioned it, but I'm going to be pausing the podcast for a moment because I realize the way they do spoilers, and it makes sense. Like, when they're talking about a series, they will spoil that series in all of the episodes, or, you know, there might be spoilers for that series in the episodes about that series. And the reason they're doing that is so that they can kind of point out, oh, this little nugget in the first book is referencing or kind of pointing to this thing that happens in book 3. And, you know, in order to kind of point out those moments and appreciate them and get a deeper understanding of the world through that type of discussion that they're having, like, you need to have read the whole series. And so I'm going to come back to the podcast a little bit later, and I will be actually finishing the novella and A Court of Silver Flames after I do a Throne of Glass read through. So anyway, the podcast will be coming in and out depending on where I am, but that's an aside. I'm sure I'll get an even deeper appreciation kind of going back with the podcast and seeing what maybe I'm not even picking up on a second reread. But I'm having such a good time. I love their dynamic in here, the romantic dynamic. Again, the found family and friendship dynamic that's just continuing to grow. And yeah, I don't know if there's much more I want to say about this yet, but I will finish up. We'll wrap up any thoughts. Maybe I'll give any spoiler thoughts that I would like to at the end. But I feel like I'm saying at least most of what I want to in a non-spoilery way, or at least mostly non-spoilery way. So, but I will finish up. I'm so excited to read this last bit here and get this finished up today, and then hopefully have one more short read before the end of the month, before we start our April reads. So, yeah. All right, let's finish up ACOMAF. So here to wrap up this vlog, I have finished the last bit of A Court of Mist and Fury and had so much fun with the ending here. We're confronting some big bad, trying to figure out how to get out of the situation. Just a lot of fun. I could definitely see some people saying that it maybe felt a little rushed towards the end. especially given how long this book is, but I still had a lot of fun with it. And, it's been, as I said, a good handful of years since I've read these. So there are a lot of details that I'm not remembering. I remember some of the major plot beats, but there's a lot of detail that either I'm not remembering or didn't quite pick up on some of the connections the first time. So honestly, it's just been so much fun to reread these and get back into this world. I'm so excited for my read of A Court of Wings and Ruin. And then we're going to be jumping to Throne of Glass, so be sure to stick around and see what I'm going to think of Throne of Glass, reading through that for the first time. And then we'll come back to this series, read the novella. I have read that one before, as I said, and then I'm excited to have new content in this world. And I don't know why I hadn't read A Court of Silver Flames yet, but I'm very excited to just dig back in, and I kind of want to read A Court of Wings and Ruin really soon, and I will be doing that at some point in April. So again, stay tuned for that. I'll just say a few spoiler thoughts and then wrap up. But if you don't want any spoiler thoughts, thank you again so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe for future episodes, plus all the other stuff that I've got planned for April. It's gonna be a fun month, so be sure to stay tuned for that. So a few spoilery thoughts. I just love Feyre and Rhysand's dynamic so much. It's just so much fun to see the change that she has undergone while going under the mountain and confronting Amarantha. And I was talking about how the middle part of her first coming to the Spring Court and first meeting Tamlin, trying to figure out what it's like to just live and not have to worry about survival day in, day out. So that's already a huge shift for her. And then, once she's getting used to that, we need some of these moments to slow down a little bit and have her get used to that, so that we can get that contrast of her going under the mountain, going through everything that she went through under there, being locked up, going through these trials, going through exhaustion, physical pain, mental shenanigans, meeting Rhysand, not really knowing what to make of him, and just trying to focus on getting out to get Tamlin free. And the change that she goes through when she comes home, and, the gall of Tamlin after he knows that she's been locked up and everything that she's gone through under this mountain, to lock her in the castle or to lock her in his manor and then not think that she wouldn't have some sort of reaction to that, just mind-blowing. And to see that kind of be a turning point, and then Rhysand come to collect her and just to take her away and start to ask the very pointed questions that she's not really wanting to ask herself. I mean, it's just a kind of a fun character dynamic and transition to witness. And then, as I said, I absolutely love the found family in here, and her meeting Rhysand's crew, and all of their dynamics are just a lot of fun. So her trying to suss out that group, and again, we kind of have some slow moments there to kind of build that up. But again, I think we need that to really get the found family dynamic here. And then, I don't know, I just love Rhysand and Feyre's dynamic. Like, I forgot how much of a slow burn it is. I mean, we barely get anything for most of this. I mean, most of this book is just like tension building moments and some personal moments between Feyre and Rhysand, getting to know each other a little bit more. And then it's not until, I mean, what we get in chapter 42 is just them acting. But, I mean, we really, even up until that point, like, there hasn't been, like, I forgot what a slow burn this is between Feyre and Rhysand, and her and Tamlin. So I think, Sarah's done a fun job of kind of developing two different slow burns for Feyre. But I mean, this one's even longer, and the tension, the way she builds tension in here is just great. It's just great. And, I just forgot how long and drawn out that tension is. That just makes the payoff of her going with Rhysand to distract everyone while a couple of the others are collecting the orb, and then having that kind of catapult things a little bit, but we don't actually really get much in this one. And it just makes the payoff so good. Anyway, but yeah, I'm very excited to just go back into A Court of Wings and Ruin, because there's, as I said, quite a bit that I've forgotten. But, will be interesting to see her back in the Spring Court and acting kind of as a spy with Tamlin, aligning himself with the big bad. And anyway, and as I said, I've forgotten a lot of this, so it's almost like I'm reading it for the first time. Not really, but there are definitely a lot of details, especially around this area, that I just don't remember. So it'll be fun to see her back in the Spring Court and being that spy and telling Rhys what's going on the inside from Tamlin and what's going on there with the King of Hybern. If you've stuck it out this far, let me know if you've read this series or if you're doing a reread this year to prepare for the books coming out in October and January. And yeah, let me know if you're excited about that, because I'm pumped. So if you want to do these with me, I kind of gave the reading order that I'm planning to do it, and plan to read 2 books a month. So as I said, we're about to do Court of Wings and Ruins and then jump into Throne of Glass. So if you haven't read Throne of Glass, for example, and you would like to kind of join in, please do. I would absolutely love that. And thank you again so much for watching. I will leave a bunch of stuff down below. First of all, please subscribe, as I said, to follow for future episodes of the Maasverse reread or read. And I will leave my Pango store link down below as well. I will also leave my Etsy shop link down below. I just have a few things in there, but I'm hoping to get some more stuff in there as well. I will also leave my Instagram down below and more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.